Dr. Dre's soon-to-be ex-wife, Nicole Young, wants the judge in her divorce case to force Dr. Dre to pay her $2 million in spousal support per month until the divorce is finalized and until a financial settlement has been made. She says that she's entitled to have the same lifestyle that she has had for the past 24 years while being a loving, loyal wife to Dr. Dre. She also has said that Dr. Dre kicked her out of their mansion that they have shared for the past 24 years, and he sent her to another mansion, which is their beach house, and he gave her no money. He's paying her bills, but she has no access to any of Dr. Dre's money, and she needs extra cash to go shopping and, for other things that she may need because Dr. Dre's only paying her bare necessities. And he told her that he's not going to give her one more red cent because she doesn't love him and she wasn't a good wife to him, and she's not going to spend any more money or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. I think that Dr. Dre should settle this divorce as soon as possible, and he needs to give Nicole Young, who has been married to him for 24 years, I think he needs to give her at least $300 million. If he gives her $300 million, he'll still have $600 million left, and he can move on with his life. It is important that Dr. Dre not drag this shit out because he has had an abusive past. And when he stands before the judge in divorce court, the judges are going to keep in mind that he beat Dee Barnes. They're going to keep in mind that he beat up Michelle A., and he has admitted to this. He admitted to abusing women in the past. Well, at least he admitted to abusing Dee Barnes and Michelle A. So it's not going to be a stretch for the judge to think that he has been abusive to his wife, Nicole Young. Whether he has done it or not, the judge may say, you know what? I feel like he hasn't been held accountable for what he did to Dee Barnes and what he did to Michelle A. I'm going to give his wife $700 million. You never know, especially if he has a female judge. You never know what the judge is going to do. So what I think Dr. Dre should do is go to his wife and their lawyers and say, let's settle this. Let's not drag it out. It's going to affect the kids. I'll give you $300 million, and we can go our separate ways, and we can move on peacefully, and we can be cordial. And I think that she would calm down. But the moment he starts telling her that he's not going to give her no money for shopping and he's not going to do this, and she feels like her lifestyle is being taken away, she's going to do interviews bashing him. And she could come on there and say anything. She could say Dr. Dre beat her. She could say Dr. Dre gave her any type of STDs. She could say Dr. Dre had babies on her, which she did. He did have a baby on her. I heard he had a baby like 2 years ago with some chick. I don't know if it's true or not. But we don't know what she's going to say in an interview that's going to further damage Dr. Dre, because at the end of the day, Dr. Dre has gotten away with a lot of shit. He hasn't received the media backlash like Chris Brown and other entertainers have. Other entertainers who have been accused of less have gotten more backlash than Dr. Dre. And then if this divorce goes on, who's to say that more women won't come forth and say that Dr. Dre beat him from back in the death row era? Because remember, it was rumors that Dr. Dre used to beat up the background singers. If you messed up your vocals in the studio with him, he was going to whoop your ass until you got it right. Y'all saw the movie with Michelle A. Y'all saw how Dr. Dre allegedly, well, not allegedly because he admitted to it, beat up Michelle A while she was singing in the studio. You saw how he beat Michelle A while she was asleep. Do you think Any judge in America is going to take Dr. Dre's word over his wife's word if she goes in the courtroom and starts crying and saying that Dr. Dre has been financially abusive to her and Dr. Dre beat her for years. They're going to take her side. And it's going to cost him more in the long run, personally, financially, and maybe even legally. I could see him doing some time if his wife was to open up her mouth. She could press charges and say he abused her. He needs to do the right thing and settle and settle and settle and settle. That's what he needs to do right now, is settle. He's not going to win against his wife in divorce court. And it's just going to open up a whole bunch of can of worms the longer that this goes on. Dr. Dre has done a lot of things in his past that he does not want to come to light. And he needs to keep that wife happy if he wants to continue to have a career. And that's my view on this whole foolishness. I've never been a big Dr. Dre fan. You know, I think he's a good producer, but he's never been on the forefront of my list of entertainers that I like. You know, yeah. I've never been that invested in Dr. Dre. But can you imagine taking a beating from Dr. Dre? I'm trying to picture myself getting beat up by Dr. Dre. You know, he's a big guy, tall, muscular. Can you imagine him holding a woman like me down, 130 pounds, holding me down and beating me in the face? I probably wouldn't survive. So I'm looking at his wife. His wife is about 140. And I think I don't know if she's tall or I don't know how short she is. I think she's like 5'5". But if she were to come out and say that she got beat by Dr. Dre, people are going to have sympathy because they're going to say, look at this tiny woman. Look at this tiny woman. Because Michelle A is a tiny woman. And Dee Barnes is a tiny woman. So all of this he has to consider. He needs to settle this shit. Who's advising him? I'm just picturing it right now. Now, it'd be good. And now, I'm sure if you're having sex with Dr. Dre and all that muscular body, you know, you're going to be attracted to that. But think about outside of sex. If he's whooping your ass, that's not something that you can survive. Oh, my God. How did these women survive getting beat by Dr. Dre? How did they survive? These little tiny women. It's a miracle. But anyway, shout out to Nicole Young. I hope you get your coins, girl. Shout out to Dr. Dre. Pay your wife. Let this die down. Pay her her money. Let it die down. Let it lie down.